We shall start this module by studying about strategic analysis and choice. Without strategy, an organization is like a ship short of rudder. It might know anywhere it wishes to go but has no wealth of getting there. From our earlier modules, we have shown that the undertaking sets the extensive procedures of where the organization would like to be in future, while planned purposes are the presentation standards, the objectives, etc., if you like, that are needed to realize the mission. Strategies and planned objectives are closely entangled. Objectives tell us what is to be achieved. Strategies, how this can be achieved. In this module, we shall focus on many strategies, substitutes and ways and means of evaluating and choosing the right one for the job. Strategy investigation and choice seek to decide alternative courses of facts that could be allowed and best suited to the organization in achieving the organizational objectives. The firm's current strategies, objectives and assignments coupled with the exterior and internal audit information provides a basis for generating and evaluating feasible alternative strategies. Alternative approaches do not come out of the wild blue bounder. They are resulting from the firm's vision, assignment, ideas, external audit and internal audit. They are consistent with or build on past strategies that have worked well. Strategies of both companies and countries are increasingly scrutinized and evaluated from a natural environment perspective. Companies such as Walmart now monitor not only the prices of its vendors offer for products but also how these products are made available in terms of environmental practices. A growing number of business schools offer separate courses and even a concentration in environmental management or sustainability. The idea that a business can meet its financial goals without hurting the environment. Strategic analysis and choice are two significant components of the employment stage of the strategic administration plan. These two components are crucial links in the strategic management implementation procedure. Strategic analysis involves a number of steps. Strategic implementation is the penultimate stage of strategic management, and strategic analysis and choices are two significant constituents of that process. The strategy is a company refers to its all-inclusive plan or program for the purpose of accomplishing its aims and targets in the long run. Choosing suitable targets and strategies is the one area in planned management where one must try to gather its most creative talent. There is sufficient research to demonstrate that no matter how good your vision or goals or objectives are, it is one's choice of strategy that really determines success or failure. In the one's opinion or individual's opinion, when he or she is running the organization, the success of the organization determined by on how well one makes the strategy and what kind of alternative he is going to choose for the accomplishment of the organization with imagination and innovativeness. After studying this module, we will say that we have different levels at which strategy exists. Now we are going to see the different levels of the business. Strategy exists at each several level in the organization, ranging from overall business or groups of business through individual working in it. We have corporate strategy. Corporate strategy is concerned with the overall purpose and scope of the business to meet the shareholders or stakeholders' expectation. This is a crucial level since it is heavily influenced by investors in the business and acts to guide strategic decision making throughout the business. Corporate strategy is often called as mission statement. Then we have business unit strategy. Business unit strategy is concerned more with how a business competes successfully in a particular market. It concerns strategic decisions about choices of products, meeting needs of the customers, gaining advantages over competition, exploiting or creating new opportunities, etc. Then we have operational strategy. Operational strategy is concerned with how each part of the business is organized to deliver its corporate and business unit level strategic decisions. Operational strategy therefore focuses on the issue of resources, processes, people, etc. Management of strategy. In its widest sense, strategic management is merely taking strategic decisions. In practice, a detailed strategic management procedure has three main constituents. We have strategic analysis, strategy implementation, and strategic choice. All the three components are interrelated, interdependent, intertwined. We cannot thought of the management of strategy without these three constituents. We start with the first, that is strategic analysis. Strategic analysis is all about the analyzing the assets of business location and accepting the important exterior factors that may affect that position. The procedure of strategic analysis can be helped by a number of tools, namely, first, pest analysis. It is a procedure for accepting the environment in which a corporate works. The second is scenario planning. It is a procedure that builds several reasonable views of conceivable future for a business. The third is five forces analysis. It is a procedure for classifying the forces which distress the level of opposition in an industry. The fourth is market segmentation. This is a procedure which seeks to recognize comparison and differences among different groups of customers or the users. The next is directional policy matrix. It is a procedure which sum up the competitive strength of a business operation in precise markets. The next is competitor analysis. This involves a wide range of methods and study that seeks to recapitulate a production's overall competitive position. Then we have critical success factor analysis. It is a method to recognize those areas in which a business must overtake the opposition in order to succeed. The next is SWOT analysis. It is a valuable summary technique for briefing the key issues rising from evaluation of a business internal position and external environment influences. The second key element here is strategic choice. This process involves understanding the nature of shareholder and stakeholders' expectations at the ground level, identifying strategic options and then evaluating and selecting strategic options. The third is strategy implementation. When a plan has been analyzed and certain tasks are assigned to different managers, they are translated into organizational structure and action. These are expressed in terms of flow. That first of all, we have different types of strategic alternatives. Then we evaluate these different types of strategic alternatives, and then finally the best one is chosen, and finally the best is implemented. Now we are moving further to discuss strategy analysis tools and techniques. Strategic analysis is the process of conducting research on the business environment within which an organization operates and on the organization itself in order to formulate the strategy. We have different types of parameters as given by the Business Dictionary. The Business Dictionary defines a theoretically informed understanding of the environment in which an organization is operating, together with an understanding of the interactions and the overall understanding of the organization with its external environment in order to improve the organizational efficiency and effectiveness, to increase the ability of the organization to achieve its organizational objectives. We start with this by defining the strategic analysis and the choices that we have. Then we have evaluation of all these choices. Then we compare with the external environment, and then we make a comparative study of the external environment positions and our strengths and weaknesses. We start with first, that is SWOT analysis. SWOT is an acronym for strength, weakness, opportunities and threats. By strength, weaknesses, they are measures of internal factors over which we have some amount of control. Also, by description, opportunities and threats are external factors on which we do not have any control. The SWOT analysis is a well-known tool for audit and examination of the overall planned position of the business and its environment. Its key determination is to classify the strategies that will make a firm exact business model that will best bring into line an organizational resources and competencies to the necessities of the environment in which the firm works. In additional words, it is the basis for assessing the internal possible limits and strengths of the firm and then comparing these strengths with the external opportunities and threats provided by the environment. It outlooks all positive and negative factors inside and outside the firm that affect the success or failure of the firm. A constant study of the surroundings in which the firm functions helps in predicting the varying trends and also help in containing them in the decision-making procedure of the organization. Now we start with the parameters or the variables involved in SWOT analysis. The very first is strength. Strengths are the potentials that permit us to achieve the organizational assignment. These are the bases on which continual accomplishment can be made and sustained. Strengths can be tangible or intangible. The organization knows its strengths and weaknesses. Strengths are the helpful aspects of the society or the competencies of the organization, which contain human capabilities, process capabilities, economic resources, products and services, customer goodwill and brand loyalty, etc. Specimen of organizational strengths are huge financial resources, broad product line, no debt, committed employees, etc. Now we move on to the second variable, that is weaknesses. Weaknesses are the potentials that avert the firm from achieving its mission or achieving its full possible extent. These weaknesses decline effects on the organization's success and growth. Weaknesses are the issues which do not meet the values we feel they should be meet. Weaknesses in an association may be criticizing machinery, inefficient resources, insufficient energies of the workers, the inexpensive resources, expansion facilities, narrow product range, poor decision making, etc. Weaknesses are manageable. They must be diminished and abolished. For example, to stun obsolete machinery, new machinery can be bought. Other instances of organizational weaknesses are huge debt, high employees revenue, complex decision making process, narrow product range, large wastage of raw material, etc. The third variable of SWOT analysis is opportunities. Opportunities are obtainable by the environment. Environment gives the opportunities to the organization. Within the environment, the organization works. If the organization is in consultation with the environment and it adapts the organizational and environmental limitations and opportunities, it can achieve wonderful success. The opportunities arise when an association can take advantage of the circumstances in its atmosphere to plan and perform strategies that allow it to develop more money making. Organizations should be cautious and identify the opportunities and grasp them whenever they arise. Selecting the board that will best serve the client's desired results in a tough risk is the organizational prime importance. Opportunities may increase from market, opposition, industry and skill. Increasing demand for telecommunication go with the deregulation in a great primary for new firms to enter telecom sector and participate with present firms to earn more and more revenue. The last variable of the SWOT analysis is threats. Threats rise when circumstances in external environments jeopardize the dependability and efficiencies of the organizational professionals. They compound the openness when they relate to the weakness. Threats are uncontainable. When a threat comes, the permanency and survival can be at stake. For example, unrest among employees, ever altering technologies, increasing opposition leading to excess capacity, price wars and falling industry profits, etc. Now we are going to see the advantages of this SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is contributory in strategy preparation and collection. It is a strong tool to achieve the organizational success, but it has certain subjective component also. It is best when used as a guide and not as a preparation. Effective business build on their strengths, precise their weaknesses and protect alongside internal weaknesses and external threats. They also keep a watch on their general business environment and identify and exploit new openings faster than its competitors. SWOT analysis helps in planned planning in the following manner. It's a source of information for strategic planning. It helps in constructing the organizational strength. It helps the company to know its weaknesses. It makes the company to face the environmental opportunities. It enables the company to face the weaknesses provided by the environment. It helps in overcoming the government threat. It helps in classifying core competencies of the firm. It helps in setting a purpose for strategic planning. It helps in significant past, present and future analysis of the organization in the light of organizational threats and opportunities so that the organization can meet and in line with the organizational threats and opportunities. SWOT analysis offers information that helps in synchronizing the firm's properties and capabilities with the economic environment in which the firm functions. We have certain limitations of SWOT analysis as it is not free from any limitation. It may cause an organization to view circumstances as very simple, because of which the organization might overlook certain key strategic contacts which may occur. Moreover, categorizing aspects as strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, etc., they might be very subjective, as there is great degree of uncertainty in market. SWOT analysis does stress upon the significance of these four aspects, but it does not tell how an organization can identify these aspects for itself. There are certain limitations of SWOT analysis which are not in control of the management. These may be related to price increase, non-availability of input or raw material, government legislation, economic environment, searching a new market for the product which is not having overseas market due to import conditions, etc. There may be some internal limitations which could be insufficient research and development facilities, faulty products due to poor quality control, poor industrial relations and lack of skilled and efficient labor, etc. Till now we have discussed the first module, that is SWOT analysis. Now we are going to discuss the 5 forces analysis. Porter's 5 forces of competition position analysis were developed in 1979 by Michael E. Porter of Harvard Business School as a simple outline for measuring and valuing the competitive strength and position of a business organization. This theory is based on the concept that there are 5 forces which determine the competitive intensity and attractiveness of a market. Porter's 5 forces help to identify where power lies in the business situation. This is useful both in understanding the strengths of the organization, current competitive position and the strengths of a position that the organization may look to move into. Strategic analysis often use Porter's 5 forces to understand whether new products or services are potentially profitable. By understanding where power lies, the theory can also be used to identify those areas of strengths, to improve weaknesses and to avoid mistakes where the firm can do all these. The 5 forces given by the Michael E. Porter are: first, supplier power, an assessment of how easy it is for suppliers to drive up prices. The power of supplier is determined by the number of suppliers of each essential input, the uniqueness of their product or service, the relative size and strength of the supplier and the cost of switching from one supplier to another. The second factor is buyer power, an assessment of how it is easy for the buyer to drive price down. The power of buyer is determined by the number of buyers in the market, the importance of each buyer, individual buyer to the organization and the cost of the buyer of switching from one supplier to another. If a business has just few powerful buyers, they are often able to dictate the market. The third factor is competitive rivalry. The key driver is the number of capabilities and competitors in the market. Many competitors offering undifferentiated products and services will reduce market attractiveness. The fourth factor involved here is threat of substitution. Where close substitutes products exist in the market, it increases the likelihood of customers switching to alternative in response to price increases. This reduces both power of suppliers and the attractiveness of the market. The fifth factor given by Potter is threat of new entry. Profitable markets attract new entrants which erodes profitability. Unless incumbents have strong and durable barriers to entry, for example, patents, economies of scale, capital requirements of government policies, then profitability will decline to a competitive scale. The third model, we have four-corner analysis. Four-corner analysis developed by Michael Potter again. The four corners analysis is a useful tool for analyzing competitors. It emphasizes that the objective of competitive analysis should always be on generating insight into the future. The model can be used to, first, develop a profile of the likely strategy changes a competitor might make and how successfully they may be. Secondly, to determine each competitor's probable response to the range of leasing or feasible strategies moves other than those competitors which do not have any competitive edge over the market. The next factor is determining each competitor's probable reaction to the range of industry or the decision taken by other competitors in the market. The four corners refer to four diagnostic components that are essential to competitors' analysis, like future goals, current strategy, assumptions and capabilities. Now we are going to discuss the process of strategic choices. The process of strategic choice is essentially a decision-making process. The decision-making process consists of setting objectives, generally alternatives, choosing more than one alternative so that organization can achieve its objective in the best possible manner, and after that firm can finally implement the chosen alternative. Therefore, for making a choice from among the alternatives, the decision maker tries to develop a set of accept or reject criteria to accept or reject the alternative. The advantages, disadvantages, trade-offs, sides or benefits of this strategy should be determined. There are four steps in the process of strategic choices. First, focuses on strategy alternatives, comparing these alternatives, evaluating these alternatives, and then finally choosing the best alternative. We start with the first, that is focusing on strategic alternatives. This process involves choosing of different alternatives. The strategists examine what the organization wants to achieve and what it has really achieved. The gap between two positions constitutes the background for various alternatives and diagnosis. This is gap analysis. The gap between what is desired and what is achieved widens as the time passes if no strategy is adopted. If the gap is narrow, stability strategy would seem to be a feasible alternative. If the gap is large, due to expected environmental opportunities, expansion strategies are more likely to be adopted by the organization. If it is large due to past and expected bad performances, retrenchment strategies are going to be adopted by the organization. The second step here is analyzing the strategic alternatives. Using some selection factors, alternatives are narrowed down to a set of some feasible alternatives. The selection factors can be broadly divided into two groups, the objective factors and the subjective factors. Objective factors are based on analytical, technical and are hard facts or data used to facilitate strategic choices. They could be termed as rational, normative or perspective factors. Subjective factors on the other hand are based on one's personal judgment, collective or descriptive factors. The alternatives that are generated in the first step are analyzed on the basis of these selection factors. The third step involved is evaluating the strategy alternatives. The next step is to assess the pros and cons of various alternatives and their suitability. Selection factors are the criteria on the basis of which a final choice of strategy has to be made. So each one of the feasible alternative has to be compared in view of the strengths and weaknesses and the objectives of the organization. This evaluation involves bringing together the analysis done on the basis of the objectives and subjective factors. Successive iterative steps of analyzing the different alternatives on the basis of selection factors lie at the heart of such an evaluation. There is no set procedure and strategies may use any approach which is suitable for the organization. Now, after analyzing, comparing and evaluating of different alternatives, the final step comes of choosing from among the best alternative available. The evaluation of strategic choices should lead to a clear assessment of which alternative is the most suitable under the existing conditions. The final step is therefore of making the strategic choice. One or more strategies have to be chosen for implementation. A blueprint has to be made that will describe the strategies and conditions under which they should operate. Now finally, we are going to make a summary of what we have discussed so far. We have started our discussion with discussing strategic analysis. Strategic analysis is all about analyzing the strengths of the business position and understanding the important external factors that may influence this position. Strategic analysis is the process of conducting research on the business environment within which an organization operates and on the organization itself in order to formulate a strategy. We have different types of methods to evaluate the strategy. The very first is SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is the most renowned tool for audit and analysis of the overall strategic position of the business and its environment. The process of strategic choice is essentially a decision-making process. The decision-making process consists of setting objectives, generally alternatives, comparing those alternatives, evaluating those alternatives, and choosing the best alternative that is good for the organization. After discussing the SWOT analysis, we have discussed the second module that is given by the Potter, that is 5 forces analysis. After this 5 forces analysis, we have discussed the 4 corner analysis. All these analyses focus on the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and their adaptability with the external environment, strengths and weaknesses presented by the environment to the organization. If an organization wants to succeed in the environment, it has to mold its strengths and weaknesses as per the opportunities and threats posed by the environment.